35-day multi-platform rankers for all of TV during the 24-25 season in total viewers, and they broke out adult 18 to 49 demo. And this is key because this is where Disney Plus has absolutely collapsed. And this is why Disney is so desperate to coalesce Hulu and Disney Plus together, because Disney Plus, bar none, is nothing more. It is worth nothing more than a digital babysitting service for preschoolers and under 10-year-olds. That's it.
Renegade Online.
Check this out, though, because this was the next quote. This is why I wanted to get to this. So in this same article, this interview with Tony Gilroy, check out this next line. This went over a lot of people's heads. This jumped out at me. I mean, for $650 million, this is Disney, he said, for 24 episodes, I never took a note. We said, quote, fuck the Empire in the first season, and they said, can you please not do that? So, like, they actually had a character in season 1 that they wanted to, I guess, drop the F-bomb in the show. They wanted Cassie and Andor, somebody to say, fuck the Empire. And they said, no, we're not doing that. But they will put Pride stuff on Disney+.
That's what I don't understand.
Season 2, yeah. Wait, hang on, it gets better.
Sorry.
In season 2, they said, quote, streaming is dead. We don't have the money that we had before. Let me repeat that. Tony Gilroy, showrunner for Andor, was told by somebody at Disney, let's use a quick, simple bit of deductive logic here. Kathleen Kennedy? Probably not, because Kathleen Kennedy's not responsible for anything, and she's dumb as a pile of bricks, okay? Or you go upstairs beyond her. It's not going to be Alan Bergman, because he does film studios. Dana Walden is up there. But then again, let's stop and think for a minute. Now, wait a minute. When was Andor Season 2 trying to get put into production? 2022. Who was still there? Chapek. Kareem Daniel. Who wants to bet that that is who that was coming from? Or they were being told at that point for that kind of budget? Because look, this thing, by the time we got to the end of 23, November of 23 is when the last filing was made, right, for Andor in the UK. The budget had exploded up to 600, or the cost had exploded up to 650 million by November of 23. Bob Iger only walked back in the door November of 22. Okay? Season 2 would have been in pre-production before that. So, to me, when Tony Gilroy's talking about having to fight tooth and nail to get money to do this, in the beginning, it was the Chapek regime, clearly, that was pushing back on this.
Right.
Because what happened with Andor Season 1? It had the lowest viewership of any major Disney production, IP production, on Disney+. The worst, okay, at the point it came out. So there was no incentive right there to push forward with a Season 2. I've told this story before. A show I loved on Netflix, Marco Polo, right? This was years, probably it's been 10 years since the last season came out. I loved that show. Netflix begrudgingly canceled it, even though the people that were watching it thought it was great. Netflix thought it was great. But the problem was there weren't enough people watching it to justify the enormous budget of that show. And this, in the second season, ended on a massive cliffhanger right when the big war was about to start. They killed it. They killed it. This is what was going to happen with Andor. This is also the reason, clearly, why I think it was Chapek's guys that were still there before Iger got his new crew back in that said, Tony, you're going to have to collapse this down. You're not getting 5 seasons. There's no way we can keep doing this. Not at $300 million a season, $250 to $300 million a season like we did for the first season. You're going to have to collapse this down, which Tony has said, which is exactly what they did. They had to collapse seasons 2, 3, 4, 5 down into the second season, right? So I guess he stumped for, we need to get more money and more money because we have to do all of this at one time now. But the point is, he said that Disney, probably Chapek or Kareem Daniel or one of those people running that division, told him, sorry, streaming is dead. We don't have the money we had before.
Right. So
There's go ahead. Sorry,
let me talk timelines on this, because I've actually got my some of the data that we've collected here.
Yeah.
200 million pounds is what they spent by the end of 2021. And then they've spent an additional 300 million pounds since then. That's by the way, that's not in dollars. So you would add 25% on top of it if you were doing that. So that's about $375 million that they spent just on season 2. If we go by a 1.27, which is, that's probably an old rate. That's just what I have sitting in the model right now. So streaming is dead. Therefore, we're going to spend more than we do on, I don't mean to beat this dead horse, but Lilo and Stitch was probably $100 million movie. And there's no question about the profitability of that. There is no way that this is a responsible amount of money. It could be at the top of the Nielsen charts for one day, and it would still never be enough. This would never be a good amount of money to spend. It
makes no sense.
Not ever. Not
and
ever.
I think we're going to see this across the board.
Yeah.
Because I just read recently that Taylor Sheridan's been pissing and moaning because he's griping that they're cutting his money for streaming over at Paramount. And if anybody's been successful, it's been Taylor freaking Sheridan.
Yeah, so he was jumping up and down about $150 million for 1923 season 2, right? Because he talked about that in an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he's complaining, and that means it's probably happening across the board.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you're right, like Kareem Daniels or somebody else said this exact thing. I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah. And that's look, that's one of the things to where you look at 1923 with $150 million budget for season 2 turned in 22, maybe 25 million. It was close. It was one of the top shows. I mean, it was churning about 20 million people a week. Okay, on average. So basically 5 times the size of the audience of Andor when it was peaking. And that's the issue. And it was 150 million for that season versus 400 million plus for this season of Andor. Yeah. And again, it goes to kind of the next point. But to say that somebody at Disney was telling Tony that streaming is dead, and they're specifically at that time talking about Disney Plus. Netflix was doing fine. Other streaming services were still largely in their nascence at that point. They weren't spending a lot of money on a ton of high-end original content. When I say high-end, I mean expensive. Apart from Netflix, and that's why I threw them out for a second, because Netflix was doing fine. But Disney had this model of spending oodles and oodles and oodles. I mean, literally billions and billions of dollars. And again, the audience that they were trying to capture, they were trying to get that core demo of 18 to 49s into Disney Plus. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't sustain it. It hasn't happened. And that's been the issue.
Okay, let's start here. Do you realize you could get this service for $3.99 a month back in 2019? Okay. Yes. You can get this service for $3.99 a month in various ways today. The value of this service is not changed. They needed to, from the very beginning, rely on their excellent back catalog. Instead, they decided they were going to pursue original content. They didn't have to. All they had to do was not spend all of this enormous amounts of money we're talking about with this stupid Andor show or any of these other things, the Acolyte and all this other garbage they shot out there to support a political narrative rather than to actually make money. All they had to do was continue making the stuff they were making. That's what people were subscribing to Disney Plus for. I don't care if Iger came out when he announced this service originally that there would be original content on it. Mm-hmm. All I know is that starting in October of 2019, you shouldn't have paid more than $4 a month for this piece of garbage.
Yep.
And that's how we ended up where we are, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the fact that they've had multiple price hikes from the original $6.99 basic price for the no commercial version of this service, and you could get it again if you bought it up front at $3.99 a month. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it jumped in October of 2024 for the basic service, which is something brand new, to $7.99 a month, and then jumped to $9.99 a month, and then that was the jump in October, and from $13.99 to $15.99 a month back in October of 2024, it's only getting worse. And you know what? The value has diminished, and that's the thing that people are looking for when they're looking at streaming services. Because I promise you, Tom is 100% right. People are going to binge shop these services. Yeah. I mean, you get more value out of getting a digital subscription plan from having Verizon or some other cable service because of the things we talk about all the time. The fact that they have carriage deals. They'll give this crap away because it is dead. Chapek was right, because nobody wants it. Nobody watches it. If you go and check out where all your credit card purchases go, folks, and you see Disney Plus on it, and you haven't watched anything over there in a month, you're wasting your money.
Here we go. The 100 most watched TV series of the 2024-2025 television season. Okay? This is what runs from, you think about recently we've covered the upfronts out there, okay? The upfronts would cover the fall and spring television season that traditionally with linear broadcast would run from like September through May of the following year. That's basically how they did this. Up until this year, Nielsen would come out with the top 100 chart, but it would cover, okay? It would cover just linear broadcast. They didn't coalesce streaming numbers into this. Well, now they are, which is really cool. So you can see here for the first time, Nielsen's 35-day, and I've got to explain this, which I don't even have the full explanation of this. I tried to research this. It's a little wonky how they did this, but for what it is, like I said, as long as we compare it within itself, it's interesting. A 35-day multi-platform rankers for all of TV during the 24-25 season in total viewers. And they broke out adult 18 to 49 demo. And this is key because this is where Disney Plus has absolutely collapsed. And this is why Disney is so desperate to coalesce Hulu and Disney Plus together, because Disney Plus, bar none, is nothing more. It is worth nothing more than a digital babysitting service for preschoolers and under 10-year-olds. That's it. That's the only people consistently watching Disney Plus. It's in the numbers. And this is why, again, we don't have any big new announcements for any future major investment plans for Disney Plus when it comes to Marvel and Star Wars. Everything that we've heard about is kind of low rent, low tier stuff. More animated stuff, more cartoons, more inexpensive, really cheap shows. Nothing major. You ain't going to see another Andor again as of right now. Or if you do, they're going to be extremely few and far between. Or any Marvel series for that matter, live action stuff. They're going to pull away from the major stuff.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.